'cause we got a lot to say about the world out there at the
I'm like, I love our song. I love our Ivy Speakeasy.
She is good.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Humpday Exchange with our host, Elizabeth and Michael, with their special guest, Craig McVay, who is running for Oklahoma State Superintendent. So excited to have you on, and I am going to turn it over to them and let them do their magic, if you don't mind.
Well, Craig, if you would like to start off by, I have had the pleasure of meeting you and, recording you. But if you would introduce yourself to the viewers and kind of tell us a little bit about you, like I know and Michael knows, we've kind of read, but why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about you?
Okay. Craig McVay, retired lifetime Oklahoma educator. Last 10 years as superintendent at El Reno, where I retired in 2022. Done some consulting with U.S. Department of Education during that time. Had to give that up in January of 24 for obvious reasons. It didn't fit what I really thought should be done. So gave that up a little bit, and then I've done some also consulting, helping schools find their next superintendent. So I've done that. Before that, I've been 18 years as a school superintendent, and then 10 years as a principal, 10 years in the classroom. And it sounds like a lot when you add that all up. I'm married. My wife and I have been married for 42 years to each other. So that's a good
consecutively.
Yeah, consecutively. We have 2 children. My oldest son is an Air Force pilot. My youngest son's an attorney in Tulsa. They're both married to professionals that are incredible in their field. And then we have 6 granddaughters. So I have 2 sons, but I have 6 granddaughters from 13 to 3. And they are a joy. They get to go out and mess with the mules. The 13-year-old went riding with me yesterday. So it's all good. Yeah.
Nice. So you have a special interest in this, right? Because not only are you an educator, a principal, and a superintendent, like you have your own grandchildren to really this is their future.
I do. I have all 6 of them. The youngest one just got accepted to a PK program in Jinx, so we're happy about that. And so I have a 7th grader all the way down to PK. But really, for me, it's about the 700,000 public school kids in the state, and my 6 are just part of that, and we have to turn the corner on this thing.
Right. Michael, what were you going to say? I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. But
okay.
But yeah, no. So what's kind of brought? So obviously, you have the experience within the. Being in education, what's one thing that that you think that politicians get wrong about the schools and education?
Well, I can't speak for all of the politicians, but I can speak for politicians in Oklahoma for the last 15 years, what they've got wrong. Numero uno, what they have got wrong is they have never, in those 15 years, fully funded education at the level that it's going to take to keep us from being in 50th. And you can see that on paper when Sandy Garrett was the state superintendent, when Brad Henry was governor. We were in the top 20 at 17 and really on this upward trajectory for quite a while. And then in 2010, we started going the other direction. We've been going that other direction since then. We had a record cut, and it was the largest cut to public education in the United States in 2010. So we're still recovering from those that period of austerity that began 16 years ago now. And so that's the number one thing is we have to turn that around. And everybody always says, well, you can't just throw money at the problem. Well, in the last 16 years we haven't. And so when we did, we were really successful. And in 2018, the teachers, took it to the sidewalk at the Capitol and walked around for 9 days and forced the legislature to invest in education, and they did. But that's just to get us to that level. After so long of being so far down, it's just going to take some investment, a long-term plan, and a long-term commitment to investment. Number one.
Absolutely.
So, I kind of want to go with, so frustrated with our school board. So it looks like now that it's headed to Congress or to our representatives about the social study standards with the removal of the tribal sovereign nations and not wanting to teach that. Like, that's, to me, as an Oklahoman, that's really, just as a human, it's really disturbing. But, that's part of our history, and to cut that out. So what do you think? How do you feel about that? And then what are some things that you can do when you come in to help the constituents, let our voices be heard, and all the things, and these curriculums?
Okay, so I'm a history teacher for one, and I'm an Oklahoma history teacher. That was my go-to. I love teaching Oklahoma history. I'm incredibly frustrated with this whole movement to cut a part of our history out. You cannot have Oklahoma history taught without teaching the ugly side of that. Forced Indian removal, 1832, the Treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek moved them here, the Trail of Tears. I don't think that the members of the state board who approved those history or those social studies standards, I think maybe they didn't study that part of history for some reason. Some of our history is ugly, and to not be able to teach that, and how the tribes were moved here, how they were forced here, how many of their tribal members were lost along the way, and then the generation after generation of generational trauma that occurred because of all that. You can't whitewash that, and that's what we're trying to do. And so I can say it out loud as a history teacher. We need to be teaching all of history. What's most frustrating about these standards is that both times now we've had a group of educators and we've had comments from the public, and all of those were put together. They were all put in front of the board. There was a set of standards that was approved that tribal members signed off on. They had tribal members there, and that's not what got put before the state board. So I'm very frustrated with, we ask for input, we give input, and then that input is simply not respected just because it's not a pretty picture of what actually happened. So it's really frustrating. What I will do to fix that is, as a history teacher, we will teach history as history occurred, not the way white Christian nationalists want it to occur. Sorry, I can say that out loud. I'm going to say it out loud. I would probably be fired today as a history teacher for some of the things that I think have to be taught. Anyone who teaches that slavery wasn't a bad deal is not teaching from the perspective of what really happened. And so I'm very adamant about that. I would write a letter from a Birmingham jail about this. That's just one of those things. So,
Right. Insanity.
Can we get, I don't know, public comment reintroduced into our state school board meetings again if you're elected? I mean, it's been rough.
Yeah, let me answer that directly. Yes. I was a school
Woohoo!
superintendent for 18 years. We had public comments before our board meeting, every single board meeting for 18 years. It wasn't always nice and it wasn't always comfortable, but you have to give the public their voice. That's why I'm such a big fan of direct democracy and what we're doing at the legislative level to limit direct democracy is unconstitutional. I've said that out loud. I'm part of that group that has brought suit, waiting for the Supreme Court to decide on that in Oklahoma. People have to have a voice, and the reason our Constitution is set up the way it is was because in 1905, 06, 07, Oklahomans were absolutely furious with partisan politics and the machines that were running politics in Chicago and New York City and Kansas City. And they didn't want that here. And that's why they set that up like that. And so, public comment, we have to have it. It's necessary. I don't think we could have gotten through the torture that was 2020 and the pandemic and our response to the pandemic and how we came back from COVID without the public having a say-so in that. And again, it wasn't always pretty and it wasn't always nice, but give your public 3 minutes to say what's on their mind. Shouldn't even be a question. Should be automatic. I'll bring
We
it
agree
up.
with that.
Mhm.
I mean, we totally agree with that.
I just had a question that kind of popped up off my script over here, but I want to know how you would support like the marginalized communities in the schools as far as like the LGBT community, as far as like letting them reinstate like the GSA in schools. I had that when I was in school. I don't know if it's still a thing or not.
The
Under Ryan
GSA?
Walton. Yeah, Gay Straight Alliance.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Oh,
that's
we didn't have that when I was in school. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Like, go on.
So let me go back to the Oklahoma State Constitution. The first clause in that Constitution says that every child from age 5 to 17 is compelled to go to school. So there are two things that says to me. It doesn't say every white straight child must go to school. It says every child. So if every child has to go to school, then we should honor and respect every single child. And so my whole focus in that regard is going to be straight down the line of whoever walks through those doors, we are compelled to teach to the best of our ability. All of them. Doesn't matter. Gender doesn't matter. Who they love doesn't matter. For the most part, we don't even know who that is because that's a decision that is so personal. And I've had some real tough experiences as a school superintendent in dealing with those issues. And it's never easy. There are hard issues that have to be discussed, and we make incredibly stupid mistakes. My goal for this whole message is limit the number of mistakes we're making in that area. Teach them all. All of them come through the doors. Let's teach them all. And by the way, let's feed them all too.
Yes.
We compel them to go to school. So we make them. You have to go to school by law in the Constitution. Let's feed them while they're here.
Perfect. Yeah, that kind of touched. Yeah, that was definitely something I was curious on as to your stance on that. Because me, when I was a kid, couldn't get approved for the free school lunch program. I think we were like I think we made $10 or $20 more than over the maximum income required. And most of the time, I went hungry as a child. So it's nice to hear that you would.
And that hurts me on every single level. As also one of those kids who. Was identified as I was hearing impaired from age 4, so I didn't hear. My parents split up when I was 9, so you have that whole who's paying for lunch thing, and then you walk up to the line in the lunchroom, and everyone else has a green ticket and you have a yellow ticket.
Right.
And as if no one knows what that is. And so, luckily, I grew up in an environment where adults really cared about me, and they really made sure that I had enough to eat, that I was not going to be shamed or bullied, because I couldn't go into the choice line. I had to go into the served as is line because I was a poor kid. But luckily for me, I grew up in an environment where the adults really, really cared enough about me to make sure that I had the best environment to go in. And my goal is for everyone to feel the same way.
That's good.
Nice, as they should. So I didn't know what DSI. I'm like, I didn't have that. You just were. No, and I'm glad you brought that up because I know. So I'm in recovery, and somebody as an independent woman in recovery, they have had some of those recovery meetings in the school, and I've noticed that I'm not hearing about that as often. And so to know that that you would be so open and welcoming to everybody without having there's no conditions, no strings attached, right? Like you're not a white Christian nationalist. Oh, you have you walk funny or you're a little feminine. Doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I want to be really clear. I'm an old white middle class bald fat dude, and if you can qualify on any of those things, and you can put a smile on your face over it, then there's a place for you in this world. And so I'm a Christian guy. I claim to be the last liberal between Oklahoma City and Denver. However, all of my friends on the West and East Coast say, "Oh wait, you hunt, you fish, you're a gun owner, you have domesticated animals, stock. You don't qualify as a liberal." So most of us are really right in the middle. And I've heard Kelly Forbes say this so many times, and Chris Culver. If you can be anything in the world, just be kind. And so if we can fit that into the management of our schools across the state, I think we just be kind and make sure everybody else is being kind. I think that should be a goal.
Pretty much my main goal in life is to not be a douche canoe. Like my main goal, right? Like I just want to be me and free, but I don't want to be ugly. So let me ask you about this. So with the school books, the Bibles, and school supplies and that kind of thing. So and I say this as somebody, I went to Tacoma Park Junior High in the 80s, early 80s, and there are still books in that school that were there when I was there. I feel that is very unacceptable. And what could you and would you do for that situation?
So part of our problem with funding in Oklahoma and not having the funds that we should have, and part of that 50th ranking. So all of your people should know that we're 50th, and one of the variables is per pupil expenditures on education. And we are last in the region. We're 50th in the country for per pupil expenditures. And part of that should be dedicated to textbooks. And I want to admit this freely and openly that I'm part of that problem. And here's why. When I had a chance to buy books or buy Chromebooks and iPads, I bought Chromebooks and iPads. Huge mistake. A generation ago, I probably wrote $5 million worth of grants to acquire devices. And so we got all of our books on Chromebooks or on iPads. And to me, all of the data that I'm seeing now, that was a huge mistake. We need to go back to textbooks, and they're expensive. I taught 10 years in the classroom with a U.S. history book that was Vietnam era in the 90s. That's what I taught history out of. So it didn't have any of the 80s in there. It had very little. It went all the way back to the Vietnam era. So, early 70s on the textbooks, teaching in the 90s. And the reason for that is because they're so expensive. A history book now costs $125, and that's a big expense. If we're not funding from the state in order to afford those textbooks, then we're doing exactly what you were subject to. Your antiquated, tore up, written in, highlighted textbooks that aren't really helping anybody. So that's what that we used to have a 5-year rotation. Then they changed it to a 6-year rotation for new textbooks. Now I don't know what that has become, but I also walk into a lot of schools that are no textbooks. And again, that's something we got to turn around. We have to put down the iPads and pick up the writing pads in the early grades for sure. That's part of our literacy issues. And I think we'll probably get into that.
Yeah, because I know, me personally, if you were to give me an iPad and say, okay, you're going to have a test tomorrow, I would not do well. Like, I have to look at the book and I got to, yeah. And so, I'm not catering to how people learn, but catering to how the kids learn, because it's not cookie cutter. They don't all learn the same.
Right. Yep. Hell, it took me 5 minutes to get on TikTok. So what did I tell you? It's 2 clicks. It took me 5 minutes to figure it out.
It's okay. We got you. You got it. That's funny. What you got, Michael?
So I want to kind of ask what your plan is to retain teachers, and instead of recruiting teachers. Of course, obviously we need more teachers, I'm sure. Most of the time, I'm sure that we recruit from out of state. We offer them big, shiny salaries, and then the older teachers are sitting behind. So I wanted to see if you had a plan to kind of retain the teachers that we do have.
Sure. I've been to 77 counties. I've talked to teachers in all 77 counties since January. And one of the things that I would immediately do is I would put forth this 8-year plan, a long-term plan, and invest in that plan. And the top investment that I would make would be a $12,000 raise over the next 4 years, 5, 4, 2, and 1 over the next 4 years. 5,000 raise immediately, 4,000 the following year, 2,000, and then 1,000. And at the end of 4 years, that will put us at a little bit of a higher level in competition with the 6 states surrounding us. Right now, we pay $49,400 to start. I think that's right, $49,400, and Arkansas is at $55 or $44,900. We're at $44,900 on our starting pay. Arkansas starts teachers out at $55. We can't recruit Arkansas teachers if we're $10,000 away from what they're paying. And so we got to get that up. That's the number one thing for retention, is across the board. Everybody gets the 12,000. And people always say, well, we're poor. We don't have that kind of money. Well, not true. We do have that kind of money. Governor Stitt at his State of the State said we had $5.5 billion in reserve. If we spend some of that money paying teachers, we're going to be out of 50th, and we're going to be able to buy textbooks and feed kids and retain experienced teachers. That should be our goal. Take some of that money that's in reserve and put it towards a long-term plan. If we don't have a long-term plan, we are just throwing money at it. So we got to invest, got to have a long-term plan. But number one on the teacher list. The other thing that comes up is kids are not prepared for school the way they were a generation ago, maybe 2 generations ago now. And so we gotta figure out some ways to do that. We have a program in Oklahoma that identifies kids that are special needs. Sooner Start has been doing that for 25 years. And we need to have a program like that identifies kids that are not ready for school. So, and to do that, we have to have a universal screener, which is what Mississippi did to change them around. A universal screener and universal early childhood literacy curriculum. And so those are things, kids prepared for school when they get there. And then the other thing is respect from the top down. If kids, I talked to a 12-year-old girl last week, and I'm not going to tell you where it was, but a 12-year-old girl said to me, and when I asked her, "Hey, how's school going for you?" "Well, it's not going very good." And I said, "Why?" And she said, "Well, because I'm failing a couple of my classes, but it's because my teachers aren't very good. That's why we're 50th." From a 12-year-old girl, we're 50th because our teachers were bad. That respect that is not there. We have to change that around, and we can do it. We just have to have some positive leadership at the very top saying, you know what, Oklahoma kids can learn. Oklahoma kids aren't 50th. Our system is 50th. Our state is 50th, but it's not because of the kids, and it's not because of the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the kind of things. Respect, behavior is an issue that comes up just about every time. Since the pandemic, we have kids that are coming to school that are actually feral. And so we really have to focus on the mental health issues of kids, especially our young kids and our kids that are, that they need focused mental health providers. And so all of those things cost money.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those things we can afford if we prioritize it. And we take that reserve and we say, okay, we're going to dip into that reserve and we're going to do some of these things. I think all of those things are retention issues. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, and then I'm going to kind of couple with that. We had Steve asked us in the question, so when you're talking about teacher pay, why are the taxes higher for teachers than they are for all of the Thunder football players?
That's a great question. I think they meant Thunder basketball players, but the Thunder basketball players. So there are some things that we can do tax wise. Here's the thing with taxes. Right now, I spent the 6 o'clock news sitting in my chair watching the 6 o'clock news, and every single commercial was a GOP governor's candidate talking about how they're going to eliminate taxes. And then on the other hand, and my wife even commented, look, why do we need a state superintendent? Every one of those GOP candidates is going to fix education. Well, here's the thing. You can't fix it if you can't pay for it. And that's one of those things that comes up time and time again. And then, so a tax break for teachers, we've floated that and we got that up there a little bit. And then that all has gone away. And so, there's some things that you can do tax wise but one of the things, and you'll never hear me say this, and I'm a public school guy, I've never got a paycheck that wasn't funded by public taxes. And so I want to be real careful with this. All these governors are going to eliminate all these taxes. Where in the hell are we going to get the money to pay for basic services? So before I address the tax question, why are teachers taxed at a higher level than the Thunder players? Because they have agents, and those agents go to work for them, and they get the best deal they can get. I feel like the state superintendent ought to be an agent for teachers and kids. Kids first, but teachers next. So maybe we can get that done.
That would be fantastic.
Kind of like that idea, actually.
I know, right? I was like,
speaking as a formal feral child raised by wolves here, like
you're like feral.
And when they're talking about the property taxes, right? Now, property taxes, that's almost all what the schools get. It's based on that, like that's the big chunk is property taxes, right? If we take that away, where do we get that money to educate our kids?
I would ask you to call your legislator and find out where they're going to come up with that money, because I've asked and no one has a plan. But I'm going to tell you, I'm very worried about that, not only for the school side, although that would be crushing to rural Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. The property tax thing would absolutely force schools out of business. And if you ever want to see a community that is a ghost town, look at someone and they lost their school first. And so, that comes up every election year. You're going to talk about consolidation, blah, 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 taxes, blah, blah, blah. But if we do that, and I'm really concerned. I talked to our county sheriff yesterday, very concerned about services. They'll lose a third of their budget at the sheriff's office. I don't think we can sustain a level of safety and productivity in our cities and counties if we just get rid of if we don't have any plan. We right now we're struggling in this state with the whole thing. The governor Stitt in the state of the state said we ought to throw out the medical marijuana law and go back to the Stone Ages, I guess. But if we start doing those things without a plan in place, how's that going to be? Because we know to raise taxes in this state is nearly impossible, set by this legislature a few years ago. You got to have a supermajority to get a tax increase done. It's happened one time since that law has been in place. So if you get rid of taxes, how are you going to get it back? If you get rid of taxes, what's the plan for revenue to fund basic services? I don't know that. I haven't seen one. I have not seen a single plan for that. And so I'm really worried that that's going to be, because no one wants to pay taxes. Now, I don't want to pay taxes, but I'm going to tell you this, and it was presented to me a couple of months ago this way. When I was a kid, we took $1 to the store and we got $1 worth of penny candy, right? So you get a penny candy, you should get 100 pieces, but we didn't. And I was angry over that as a child because I had to pay my 2 cents taxes. Now it's 10 cents and above sales tax. Sales tax just hurts the people that need to be hurt the less. And so we don't have a tax cut in this state. We have a tax shift. And so we have to be really careful about what that looks like. And again, I want everyone on here to know, I have never got a check that wasn't directly paid by public taxes. So I will defend that our taxes pay for a lot of goods and services.
Okay. Definitely.
Kind of want to talk to you about, I've seen where you talked about increasing instructional time. I wanted to see what that looks like to you and how that would affect the teachers, impact the teachers and the students.
Yeah. So what I observed over my career was, and I want to be sure that we talk about this in the right way. When I'm talking about instructional time, I'm talking about dedicated instructional time. So not increasing days past a certain number. Let's just say that's 175 or 180, whatever it is. So, and I'm a 5-day-a-week guy. I want kids in school more and not less. But I want to be clear on this. When I talk about, I want to protect the delivery of new instruction. So right now we have to spend all of January, all of February, all of March teaching kids how to take the test. And I want to eliminate that. And how I want to do that is we have to do some testing according to federal law. What I would like to see done is a pre-test for when they start school and a post-test at the end. I don't want to spend all January, February, March preparing kids for a test. I want those to be dedicated instructional days. And so it doesn't come off like that on a walking card, but what I'm talking about is no interruptions, time for new material to be introduced to kids. I think Boston goes 180 days. If they're number one, if Massachusetts is number one and they go 180 days, why does Oklahoma need to go 185? Let's just be better with the days that we have. And again, 1,080 hours, whatever your community says is best. And I want that to be, I I completely local control. There are some great schools out there that go 4 days a week, and I don't have any problem with that. They're doing a great job. I can name them. There's a bunch of them that they fit their 1,080 hours in, which is the equivalent to 180 days. And so I want to be sure that people understand additional instructional time for me is not the additional days. I don't want to go 189 days or whatever they're talking about now. I think that's ridiculous. And there's no data that I've seen anywhere that says that that's a better thing. Now, again, I'd rather they be in school more than less. And so what I'm talking about is kids in school. I want them to be fed. I believe that most of the districts that I've worked in, school's a safe haven for kids, and it was for me growing up. In my environment, I needed to be at school more, and had great teachers that went through that. So I want to make sure that we're doing the best with what we have, and part of that is to stop teaching the test. Yeah, I mean that's to me, we gotta figure that out, and we can. We're better than that. We can do a pre-test and a post-test, and then then we get away from the standard. We spend $40 million a year on standardized testing. We give the ACT to every junior, whether they're going to college or not. Can you imagine? I can imagine little Craig, the junior, who was going to go to welding school. If you would have made me take the ACT, I would have had a great art project there. And I think that's we overtest so much that we lose sight on really truly instructing kids in the things that are important. And so we got to get away from that, especially as we get into 7th through 12th grade. We got to do something different.
So somebody had put in the comment, first of all, you touched my heart when you talked about mental health in schools. But also talking about like basic life skills.
Right.
So back when I was in school, like we had, I know this is aging, home ec and Future Homemakers of America. And I'm like, I'm not talking about that. But I also learned how to write a check, how to balance a checkbook in school. I feel like those would be, it's kind of like feeding the kids. Sometimes that's their only meals of the day. And sometimes the school is the only place that they get that structure and that knowledge from. So how do you feel about that? What do you think? And then what could you do in our schools to help with those basic life skills and some of that mental health?
So part of the school day, for me, everything I really needed to know, I learned at school. Some of the things that I learned at school weren't textbook things. Like, for example, changing a tire. I learned to change a tire in my ag class. I did fractions in my ag class. While we were building things, I can remember getting in trouble for taking a tape measure, and the ag teacher was like, "Hey, give me a measurement on there," and I was like, "Okay, it's 12 inches and one of those little marks." And so I learned how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide fractions, being beaten ahead with it by an ag teacher who wanted to make sure that we were applying learning. And so one of the things that we all grew up with, and you guys are probably too young, but I grew up with a functional diploma. When I left high school, I could do things. And so I think that doing things needs to be incorporated in the why. So we're doing algebra. Why? Because a plus b equals c, whatever, x plus y equals whatever. And so if you're functionally taught, that is, here's your paycheck, here's your bills, this is how much gas you have to have. That's the algebra that's functional to kids, and they get it. And so that's the education that I grew up with. So you can incorporate those life skills into the core subjects and our electives. And so and the standards should be there. You should leave high school with a functional diploma to go whatever direction you want to go, whether that's career tech, whether that's community college, the regional colleges, or the comprehensive universities. That you should be functional at that point, and that's the goal we should have. And I think 7th through 12th grade, we should incorporate those life skills. It can be done. It was done for me. I can remember, going out into the parking lot, changing a tire, and that be part of your grade. Yeah, every girl in my ag class, and there were a lot of girls in ag back in those days.
Right.
Even and then also you mentioned home ec, and we have a really robust FCCLA FACS program in Oklahoma still today. That those home ec courses didn't go away. We're still teaching those courses, and so there are schools that's an elective, so you have to fit it in. But that family and consumer science is still being taught across the state. In fact, I got an invitation to Stigler High School's FCCLA. Let me shout out to Stigler here. They're having a political event as a fundraiser to send their FCCLA contestants to national tournament. Great idea. And so they want to have a little. I think they're calling it actually the Great Debate at Stigler, and so those programs are still there. Our ag programs are the best in the country. The Oklahoma Youth Expo is the Super Bowl, World Series, NBA Finals of the ag world, and so those are programs that we don't hear a lot about them, but we have a national FFA president last year, so those programs are still robust in Oklahoma. But when we're talking about life skills, we can do all of those life skills. And I just use El Reno because I was there for 10 years. My 7th grade granddaughter is in home ec, so
Okay.
those programs are still there. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, no, they're still there. They might not. They're not sent. They're not in every school, obviously. They are elective courses, and sometimes those teachers are hard to find, and so you and a lot of people lose those. The same with all of the other elective courses. The teacher shortage is real, and it really affects those the specials. So yeah, but they're still out there. We still do that.
I don't think it was elective for me. I think it was this is the class you're taking.
Yeah,
Do they
no,
still
I
have?
think you're right, and
Do
I
they
think
still have DECA, where you could the work where you could go to
it's
school and then
yeah,
work
that's
separately?
that's incorporated into FCCLA.
Okay. That's a lot. That's a lot of initials. What does that
It
stand?
is. I'm sorry, I can't even tell you what it is.
I'm like, that's a whole lot of things.
It's family and consumer science.
Oh, okay.
So home
So
ec.
they've renamed it. It just sounds like.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not.
Yeah, I didn't rename it. Someone did, but
No, I know.
yeah,
I was like,
I can't even tell you what FCCLA stands for right off the top of my head, but it is what we would have called home ec back in the day.
nice. I actually knew somebody that has their college degree is home economics. So I was like,
Right?
okay.
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State still offers a degree in home ec.
Wow, really?
I think so.
I got to look at. I got to get out more.
Now, this past year, our governor decided that we needed to change the requirements for high school graduation so that you either had to be in the military, be going to college or a trade show in order to get your high school diploma. Now, I know that it was done through the state legislature, so there's probably nothing, that a state superintendent could do over that. But it is so ridiculous to me because who in their right mind, what child in their right mind wants to spend already, 13 years in school, because we've got to count kindergarten, it's mandatory now, and you spend 13 years in school, and it is an accomplishment in and of itself, and it should not be determined on what your next steps are. So how could we go about maybe clawing some of that nonsense back. Because, I mean, if you get a high school diploma, you should be able to get a job, period.
So I just go back to what I said earlier. Your high school diploma should be functional. It should be a document that you say, okay, I'm ready to face the next step. And that next step should absolutely be between you, your God, your family, and as you look in the mirror. Like I said, I fully intended to go to welding school and go work on the Alaska pipeline when I left school. That was what I wanted to do. And here I am, 45, almost 50 years later, thinking, man, I sometimes I wish I would have just went to welding school. But my point is, nobody should tell that person except for his family and his closest confidants, his mentors, this is the direction you should go. I was very lucky. I had 2 coaches and a teacher who absolutely told me, no, you're going to college and this is why, and this is where you're going to go. And so they lifted me into that direction. But that shouldn't be a mandate. And I'll just tell you, I think executive orders in general need to go away. That's why we have the legislative process. That's why we have constitutions. And I think I think they're weak at best, and they usually go out the door with that person. So when Governor Stitt leaves, that executive order will fall off, and rightfully so. And so, but again, exactly what you said. Getting through high school should be one goal. What is it that you're going to be prepared for to do next?
Yeah. That kind of leads into my next question I wanted to ask you. I know that you said that education has become too politicized. What does depoliticizing schools actually look like in practice to you?
So ABCs and 1, 2, 3s. Back to the basics. To me, when you exert your political will on students who aren't ready for that yet, and I said this a million times, in my 40 years, most of the kids that I was associated with over those years did not know whether they were Democrat or Republican. I didn't myself know until I drove to the registration place, the tag agency. I registered for the draft. And on the way in, I asked my grandfather, hey, what am I? I don't know what I am, Democrat or Republican. And he looked me square in the eye and said, we love our land and our people more than we love a Wall Street banker. So you're a Democrat. And he said, I'm going to give you this piece of advice. Don't ever do drugs and don't ever vote for a Republican. And so, and I know that he turned over in his grave when I switched my registration in 2014 to support Joy Hoffmeister's run in her primary, and voted for the first Republican. But I truly believe that education is a place that we should be teaching fundamentals. We should. I'm an old coach, so teaching fundamentals in everything gives you the basics, and then you make that decision on your politics later in life. That's what college is all about. That's what being a young adult about. Unless I'm wrong, nobody gets to vote until they're 18 in this state. So, we need to leave the politics at home, and we need to do fundamental education to prepare kids for the next level, whatever that next level is. Might be out here, on the across the road from me running a tractor 10 hours a day, whatever, but we got to prepare them for that. And so there we go.
Your grandpa sound like a very nice man.
He's a pretty progressive guy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
To be an Oklahoma redneck,
Right, that's funny. I was just thinking, I was like, how did I pick? I think I picked back in the early 80s. I think I picked Republican because I didn't want to be a donkey, because I didn't have any of that. I'm just saying. I didn't learn any of that. I didn't learn it in school. I didn't learn it at home. I actually learned it from other people. The things that you learn in school from other people or other people's parents, especially when there were, um, I hate to say political, but I guess, human rights, civil rights, all these things are political in some aspect. And so kind of like, not like, maybe encouraging them to do like their own research, because I didn't even know to do my own research, if that makes sense, because I wasn't around it. And now I can look back going, why didn't you guys, like, nobody said anything? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So with me, I was blessed as a 17-year-old freshman in college. I was blessed to be surrounded by people who were politically astute and who really paid attention to that. And then my first college class was a 7:30 Monday, Wednesday, and Friday class with a guy named Dr. Jim Castor, who just recently passed away. And so he exposed all of us in that class to the political world. And so I began to build that, and then I was around these people that were politically, in college, and they were motivated. And so that kind of formed my opinion. But when I was 17 and in high school, that opinion didn't have anything more to do than, where are we going on Friday night? Where's that adult malted beverage going to come from this weekend? Those were the things that concerned me a lot more than politics, and so I didn't get any of that in school until I was in college, and really I think it's best, with the division in our country today. I think if you just go back to be nice, be kind, and then have respect for other people, the way they grew up, their culture, their race, their religion. I think just a lot of that goes a long ways. But in school, we need to walk through those doors and immediately start with the foundation. Really getting back to, sit down and let's get to work and let's learn how to read, write, add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Then we'll worry about those other things later, and get all the BS. And I've said that,
where's my BS candidate?
Get all the BS out, and let's just focus on, the things that matter for kids. Read, write, add, subtract, multiply, divide. Let's throw some history in there that's unbleached history, and let's do what's necessary for kids so that they can succeed at the next level. Our graduates in Oklahoma are pretty darn good. If you take our top 10%, they'll be competitive with the top 10% in the world. At one time we had more astronauts than any other state in the union. Dr. Shannon Lucid graduates from Bethany High School. She spends more time in space than any other human being. And so we have so many of those. We have, you just take the music industry. Garth Brooks and I, our school, we went to school together. We have really good public school graduates that are out there doing, the very best things. I brag. We had one of our El Reno kids was just graduated first in law school at OU. Our public school kids are competitive when they graduate. This state ranking that is based on third grade reading and fourth grade math might not tell the whole picture. So, but again, if we get back to really focusing on basics, I think we win school, and kids can go over to that next level. They're doing incredible things at Career Tech. At one time in 2008, we had the #1 ranked early childhood education program in the country. Sandy Garrett, Dr. Ramona Paul had this early childhood program together, and we were the highest ranked early childhood program in the country. At the same time, our career and vocational technical schools were rated #1 in the world.
Oh, wow.
So if you take that time in 2008 and you continue to fund at the level necessary and keep up with the other states, we would be talking about a very highly ranked education system. And we're not, because of this 16-year period of austerity where we've cut our way to 50th. And so we got to flip that. But again, that just goes back to what we know is the most important thing. And that's really everyone who to those doors needs to get a functional education.
Nice.
Wow.
I note that we're about to wrap up. Oh, Lisa's probably going to ask you how we can support you.
I have one more question
Oh, my bad.
first, if you don't mind.
Go, please.
I know we're running short on time, but what does your first 100 days as state superintendent, what's that going to look like for you, do you think?
Well, it's going to be really the first 100 days for me will be focused on early literacy because that's how we dig out. And on the backs of that will be an 8-year plan to propose to the legislature. And it's really going to have to happen faster than 100 days. And that's why my experience as a state superintendent, will help as state superintendent, no on-the-job training. In January, we're going to put on the table an 8-year plan to improve education in the state that includes a plan, an investment in the plan, implementation plan within the plan, and showing fidelity to a plan over time. That's what we did in Roads and Bridges. Roads and Bridges 2005 were ranked 49th. We get an 8-year plan for Roads and Bridges. At the same time last summer, they were announcing that we were 50th in education. We were 4th in Roads and Bridges conditions. So take that plan and put that into an educational setting, and that's where we need to be. And that's the first 100 days. That's the first 60 days, because that's got to be on the legislature's agenda on the first day of February. Really, you got 30 days and then 30 days to convince Oklahoma legislators that this 8-year plan is where we need to go.
Nice.
I like it. With public comment being the first meeting, right? Sorry.
We'll be there with bells on.
So
I haven't gotten to
day,
give my
on the
1
first
minute
day that
stuff.
Joy Hoffmeister, on the first day Joy Hoffmeister took office as state superintendent, she posted her personal cell phone number. And I'm going to tell you this right now, that impressed me so much that if the state of Oklahoma and our voters elect me, if you need to call somebody who knows how to get the job done, call me. Let's get the job done. Public comment shouldn't be just 3 minutes at a meeting. You should have a voice at the Capitol. That's the way education works. It works across this state. So day one, call me, send me an email. Let's get things done.
I think we have school board meeting trauma. I think Elisa and I are trauma bonded.
I don't know how you couldn't. And it still goes on today. We still can't. Mm-hmm. We still don't have any. We still don't have any public input. So.
We're going back up there. We'll be back up there harassing some more, because this is unbelievable that it's still, we gave him a pass when he first came in because it was a absolute nightmare. And it's like every time we give them a half an inch, they steal 100 miles. So it's like, no.
The power, the behind the curtains power is still in power. Let's just call that what it is. The money behind the curtain is driving education in this state, and it's still doing that. That's why public money needs to stay in public schools. We didn't cover that, but
we didn't. Oh my gosh, how did we miss all of the money being funneled over?
Right.
Yeah, we got to repeal that voucher plan. Hey, Mississippi 49th to 7th or whatever they became, and they repealed their private school voucher law. We don't have to go far to find out how to do this. We can steal it from other people. Other states have given us they've given us a roadmap. All we have to do, the miracle in Mississippi was not the increase in academic outcomes. It was their policymakers came together and said, yes, we can do this. and they did it. That's the miracle in Mississippi.
Nice. I know we're like, Mississippi beat us? What?
What?
That's not good.
Yeah,
In the middle of
Mississippi
their
came in
own
here and
stuff,
thrashed
too.
us on the football field, everyone would be fired. The politicians would be impeached. That's the way this happens. So we got to get back to what's real.
Definitely. I was very surprised of the people that actually get those vouchers, because it's not the people like me, it's the people that have the shmoney's that are getting the vouchers. And it's like, it helps me a lot. I'm sure $5,000 would help me as well. So I'm just saying.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money for somebody that has a lot of money.
Public money needs to stay in public schools.
Public schools. Absolutely.
Right. Well,
Absolutely.
aside from how we can support you, how we can find you, is there any last minute or comments or anything that you would like us to know or voters to know?
Yes, couple of things. Unlike the governor candidates, I cannot afford to finance this campaign by myself. And so if you go to craigforkids.com, all lowercase, craigforkids.com, that'll take you to I think the donate button pops up first. So, and hey, if you've got $2 that you want to commit, I have teachers that are retired that they do a recurring deal through Act Blue on our website, and I got one teacher today. She gives me $6 a month, and I love those things more than anything. That helps us. And you might say, okay, well, $6 is not much, or $2 is not much, but on Act Blue, if you hit that donate button at craigforkids.com, that's a donate deal. You scroll down to the bottom of that website, and you can get a sign, or you can volunteer. We are setting up phone banks as we speak to really push towards the June 16th primary. And so if you want to help, that's the way you do it. My phone number is 405-650-8917. Text me. If you call me, I'm not answering until I know who it is, and because I get so much spam that but if you leave a message, I'll call you back every time. I promise. So
let me add, can you text and be like, hey, it's Debo, answer the phone, and then call you?
Whatever it takes to get my
voicemail.
attention. As long as you don't try to sell me an extended warranty or roofing or that sort of thing. But yeah, no.
I got some health care for you.
Yeah, or give me a call, but if you call me, leave a voicemail. I'll call you back.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And it's for FOR, not for?
Yeah, it's spelled out, all lowercase, craigforkids.com.
Oh, can I ask you about the student that kind of goes around with you? I'm just curious about her. She's super sweet.
So Reese Davis is a former student, graduated from El Reno. Her mom and her aunt worked with me. She graduated with a degree in political science last year, and she's my field coordinator. And she does a great job, and she's an incredible person. And she is absolutely a product of getting things done. And I'm an Oklahoma State fan, so it was hard for me to hire someone. But no, Reese is great. She's an incredible example of what hard work does. She graduated in 2022 from El Reno High School and graduated from OU. And I don't want to tell you how great she is, but let's just put it this way. There weren't a lot of graduates higher than her in her graduating class at OU. So I'm very proud of her. She does a great job with us, and everywhere I go, she goes, because it takes me 5 minutes to get on TikTok.
Right. I just wanted to give her a shout out because I know that.
Thanks for bringing it up. She's fantastic. My campaign manager is Travis Darling, does a great job. My campaign consultant is Camelot, Michael Whalen. And so, I'm blessed to be surrounded with a team. My volunteer coordinators, a lifetime friend of mine, John Oglesby, and we're going to get off here and we're going to Zoom at 8:15 with all that team. And so, thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Reese is everywhere I go in the no BS pickup. She has to ride with me. Bless her heart. It's kind of souped up, so it's really loud. It's got straight pipes and so she has to put up with that and my driving because I usually drive. So.
Sorry, my cat is needy right now. Stop.
One of your students.
Can you hear my dog? My dogs have been coming in and out and around, and luckily they haven't jumped in my lap. And my birds aren't squawking for some reason.
I heard the birds.
Yeah, and the mules. You can sometimes hear the mules out there, but I fed them before we got on, so no mules braying this time.
That's funny. We're going
to the prom Friday night, though. We're the mules and the wagon are taking kids to the prom on Friday night. That's a joy for us. So
how fun!
That'll be fun. Yeah. I gotta tell you, I was going to Carnegie with a carload of women last week, and one of them says to me, "Do you know anything? Like, are you voting for Craig McVay?" And I'm like,
"Hell yes."
I go, I don't know. He's one of the ones I'm watching, and she goes, "He is awesome. He was one of my teachers in school, and I just love him. You have got to vote for him."
Awesome.
Nice.
So she's not as young as Reese, but she was very adamant that you were an incredible teacher and that you would be an incredible state superintendent.
Thank you. So you'll have to send me her name if you don't want to say it out loud here. So
I will
send me that so I can give her a thank you. I've been really blessed, y'all. Almost 40 years of incredible relationships with kids. As a teacher, coach, counselor, principal, even as superintendent. Reese could have worked for any candidate, and she asked to come on board with us because of the progressive nature of our campaign, and that there's not going to be any BS. And so, young people really like that message, and so we try to stay very true to that.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time and your generosity and your answers. This has just been incredible. Love having you on here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And everyone who made fun of me for not being able to get on, I totally get it. And so if you see our social media, you'll know that, hey, that old dude does not know what he's doing, but some of those young people can take care of him. So
that's right. That's how we roll.
Takes a village. It really does. So, and you'll hopefully take some of those to the state house or to the state superintendent with you too, because
the law is very specific. You can't promise a job while you're running for one.
Oh yeah, no, I was not implying that at all. We've had plenty of that.
All of those people on our team are going to be gainfully employed somewhere for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like.
And you got people that'll apply too, so I'm excited. That's what I hear.
Awesome. Now, we're also have put in a request for is it Jeanette to come on here? She's your primary candidate, is that right?
Who? No, I'm just kidding. That's wrong with me. So I'm so sorry. No, you're fine. It's Dr. Janetti Marshall is a Democrat candidate, and we'll face off in the primary.
So we're trying to get her on, and then we would love to have both of you on for a debate.
Oh, wouldn't that be fun?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Let's rock and roll.
We've done it. It's been great.
Yeah, we've done one, and it was a lot of fun, and we'd love to
sign
do
me
that.
up. I'm committing. Okay. I'm committing right here, right now. You can do that.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. I know you've got to go so you can get to your next meeting. Yes. Thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for your dedication to the kids. This has just been amazing.
Yeah, I had a blast. Let's do it again sometime.
Yes,
absolutely.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes,
thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Have a good night.
You have a good night.
All right, bye.